Why do we do this? Why why do we root for Buffalo sports teams?
We ask this question every single time we're recording an episode of the podcast. I don't know. We were born into it.
Year
Another
in
loss.
and year out. Oh man.
It's
I
numb.
I can't believe yesterday went down the way it did. Wide right. Like really? Really? You couldn't like even if it was wide left, dude. Like oh my God.
It would have been so much funnier if it was a 47-yard field goal, but it was what was it, 44?
44. You see the one person tried to the one person on Twitter was trying to say that Norwood also missed from that far out. And
It
everybody's like,
was
nope, no, no, it
no,
was 47.
it's 47. Everyone still knows that. And if you're one of the people who think that Tyler Bass cost this team a football game, you don't know ball at all.
I felt so bad for him.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
listen, he gets paid a lot to kick the ball, but nobody's perfect. There's human error involved in everything. Name me one kicker in the league that's been perfect all year. Has there been
Harris,
anyone?
Harrison Butker, maybe.
Yeah, but he seems like he's just him and Tucker are just always crazy. I
Well,
don't know.
I was thinking, like, first of all, Bass, this has been like a bit of a lead up. Like, he's been shaky in recent
Hmm.
weeks. Obviously, had that terrible shank last week. But I was also thinking, I think fellows over at the Buffalo Sports Talk podcast brought it up how when the Ravens played here back in 2021, that was the Taron Johnson game, how Tucker missed two field goals in the
Yeah.
Buffalo conditions, which is just so unlike him.
It's a swirling vortex down there. Like the winds are weird, which is what I hope is eliminated when they move to this new stadium. I'm hoping it's, you still get that cold weather environment, but the elements aren't as harsh. Maybe you can get a little bit of snow on the field, the fans stay dry, and you don't get that crazy wind effect. Like who wants to play in that? Really? Name me a player that wants to play in that.
I think they were talking about that in the post game on the national broadcast. They're like, it's just tough for kickers there. Like you would not. That would be like one of the worst fields to kick at if you had the choice up to
It's
yourself.
terrible. It's terrible. I've been in that stadium multiple times. I know how windy it could get. I know how cold it could get, and it
I
gets crazy.
I I can attest to that as well. I was there for the Win Bowl game.
Was that the Patriots game?
Yes, I was
Yeah.
actually there. Me and JP went together, and we were there. We got there in time during warm-ups, so we were watching the kickers, and they were not. It wasn't even close. I remember there was that funny video going around of where Bass was, I think, practicing from like 40 yards out, and it stopped like 10 yards before.
Hey, if you're going the other way, you probably could have made like a 70-yard kick.
Probably, probably. Oh man, just what a disaster. What a disaster. Or cursed. Even the Bandits are kind of off to a mid start right now.
Yeah.
Not a good
Well,
not a good time in Buffalo.
the old stadium is built on, it's built on an Indian burial ground, right?
I was having this conversation with somebody today that we might actually be cursed.
Probably. Who knows?
Well, folks, on that depressing note, welcome back to the Sabre Roundtable. My name is Jonah,
I'm Christian.
and as always, we will be talking to you about all things Buffalo Sabres hockey and a little bit of the wider NHL. No JP this week. He couldn't muster the strength after that loss last night. No, that's actually not the reason. He wasn't too broken up, but just me and Christian this time around.
OG
Welcome,
format.
OG format. Welcome back. I'm glad we got you for this episode for a multitude of reasons, which we will get into.
Okay. I think I know where this is going. Don't you worry. I got something prepared.
To get off of the depressing note that the football team left us on, back to the hockey team. So the last time that we recorded was after the Vancouver game. The Sabres still had 3 games left in their homestand, and those 3 games they finished 2-1 in 3 consecutive, very uneventful games.
Very boring games. Very boring games to watch. It doesn't feel like they played 3 games.
Yeah, it was not. It wasn't the most exhilarating hockey, which is kind of the tune of the season. But considering you did play the 31st and the 32nd ranked teams in the NHL, I mean, a 3-0 score. Hey, you won 3 goals.
2 good wins. I guess you could call them good wins.
I
They're
guess.
both
I
shutout
guess.
wins. 3-0. Hey, you took care of business against the worst 2 teams in the league. That's all I could ask for. But, we'll get to whatever happened after that in a little bit. Kind of
Yeah.
broke our spirits.
Well, I'm gonna try to lump these 2 games together because they were so uneventful. The
Hmm.
Chicago and the San Jose games. The big storyline, and the reason why I'm glad you're here. Let's just jump right into it. Ukko, Pekka, Luukkonen, back to back shutouts.
Against the 31st and 32nd ranked
You
team.
just couldn't help yourself, could you?
And listen,
Shutouts are rare in this day and age, man. I don't care if they played 2 AHL squads.
there's something circulating on Twitter about a month and a half ago in regards to the goalie we're talking about right now, and it was a apology form. It was signed and it was circulated by numerous Sabres fans.
Ourselves
And
included. Well,
I
I
didn't
signed
sign
it.
in.
I didn't. Okay, sorry, mean. I signed for JP, I guess. Your hat was never thrown into the ring.
Right,
But but the Sabre report did sign an apology form.
right. And after the back-to-back shutouts, and if people have been listening to this pod before, obviously previous episodes, I've stated that I wasn't a big fan of UPL's performance. And I mean, up until the last few games, I still wasn't. But 2 shutouts are 2 shutouts. But I am not signing a damn thing. I am not signing anything. Listen, I'll give this man his flowers because he pitched a back-to-back shutout, which doesn't happen almost ever, even if it is against 2 bad teams. Talk to me at the end of the season. That's all I'm going to say. Like I'm not doing this again. I've seen too much inconsistency out of him in the past. I'm not doing it.
Well, I can't say this reaction is unexpected for any longtime listener of the pod, or even if you've listened in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Christian has been casting doubt for a while now.
But I will say, let me say, going forward from now until date X, UPL has earned the starting job. Levi should be in the AHL. He should be getting reps, especially if he's not going to play. But he's going to have to be on a minute's notice because this man could turn on you like a dime. As we've seen in the past, I'm not making this up, and everyone thinks I'm crazy. And I'm
I
not
know
trying to
I
dog the guy. I'm not trying to dog him.
I know what you
I want him
mean.
to be good.
Okay, I know what you mean. Everybody signed that apology form after they played the New York Rangers in Madison Square Garden, where he played out of his mind.
Unbelievable.
And the next game was the St. Louis game, where he let in 6 goals on, I think, 20 shots. I
See,
know. I know that's what happened, okay? And I know he's had his mishaps. I know he's turned pucks over. That's led to game-winning goals. He's been caught far and wide out of the net. I know these are things that make you mad. They make me mad.
I'll defend him on that, though. That happens. That happens to
It does
Marc-Andre
happen.
Fleury
It does
all the
happen.
time.
It does
That
happen.
happens.
It seems to happen to Marc-Andre Fleury in the most crucial of moments, but it happens to people. It happens. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know if you can call UPL inconsistent this season as a whole. I really like he has bad starts, but what starting goalie doesn't?
I
I
think
know what you mean. It was funny timing. Okay, everybody signs that apology form, and then bang, 6 goals on 20 shots the next game. But I know you saw that stat circulating today. And this is of Mike Kelly of Sports Logic. 5 goalies have at least 20 starts and have given their team a quality start in 70% of them. Swayman is one. Hellebuck is one. Sabre killer Samuel Urson is one. Linus Allmark is one. And the goalie who leads the league, Ukko Pekka Luukkonen.
I think what we're seeing more of out of him this season as opposed to last season is last season he would have a long stretch of bad games. Like he'd play well for medium amount of time, sometimes a short amount of time, and then he'd just go on this stretch of just getting dogged every single game. And maybe that had to do with more to do with the start of that three goalie rotation. I know they were still running it um at for most of this season, but I think what we're seeing now out of him, it's more of a longer stretch of good quality games played and then the occasional stinker, which you do get out of good starting goalies. And when I say occasional, I don't mean like an elite goalie where they'll have one really bad game. It'll be like a couple games here and there in a row where he'll struggle. And that's usually when Levi would take the helm. And Levi would have a few good games, but Levi was, you know, you don't want to leave him out there to dry either. But it's good to see this out of him. What the Sabres will do going forward with him is to be determined because as of right now, I'm hearing they might be sellers. They have three goalies on their roster. If they want pieces, if they want something out of it, I don't know. I know Casey Middlestat was being talked about. Maybe you never know. UPL could get thrown in the mix too. But that's more of a reach,
I
honestly.
think that would be crazy if now they did it. Like now he's actually not just making like he's taken steps. He is a starting goalie in the NHL. Legitimately. He
Experience
is.
Sabres hockey, baby.
It's
They throw you
goalies
a
are
curveball.
goalies are voodoo.
They are.
Goalies are
They
voodoo.
are. Which proves my point from earlier when everyone calls me crazy saying that he's inconsistent and I need to sign this apology form. Goalies are voodoo. You never know what they're going to do. I'm wrong, and also other people are wrong. It just depends on the time you ask them.
Unless you're Connor Hellebuck, you are due for a bad season every other season as a goaltender.
Yes.
But what's interesting is for the first time, I'm going to bring this up. At least on this show, it's ever been brought up, and it really hasn't been talked about in the wider Sabres sphere yet. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's an RFA at the end of the season. Are we going to be talking about a contract extension for him?
I mean, I think he's proven a pretty good case for himself, I guess, so far. He hasn't been like bad to the point where it's like now he's not getting an even a qualifying offer. Worst case scenario, is he arbitration eligible?
That's a good question. I'll have to check cap friendly for that.
But either way, like I'm thinking bridge deal. I mean,
Um,
you don't
I'm
want to sign
always
a
I'm always thinking bridge deal with goalies.
with goalies, yeah. You never want to sign a goalie long term. I mean, unless you're Connor Hellebuck, you need to be proven generational talent, which is almost impossible to do before, you know, your RFA days are over. So at that point, you're just like a UFA. But yeah, I'm thinking bridge deal. But again, it's like you never know with goalies. It's like you could throw a dart on a board and hit a random goalie and maybe they'll perform really well for you. And I mean, like you see the Senators, they take who they Corpusalo. It's like they thought there's your cornerstone piece right there.
They might be the only ones who thought he was a cornerstone piece, if at all.
But yeah, it's just I guess go ahead. Like who else are you gonna go with? He's been in your organization. It's
You've
good
you've you've
to
spent a
develop these
long
guys.
time developing him.
Yeah,
Crazy to
he's
think about. He was taken in Botterill's first draft. He was drafted
he's
in 2017.
He's been around since the McDermott era started in Buffalo.
Oh, man, now that's that. Now I want to check that. Was he drafted before McDermott was hired? I wonder.
I'm gonna say
I don't think
no
so. I don't think so, right?
because wouldn't it be like closer to after uh when locker cleanout would be for the Bills and then they fired Rex Ryan?
Well, let's see. The NHL draft would have been in June. Let's see here.
June of 27. Okay,
Oh,
McDermott
wow.
was hired January of
January. Yeah,
2017.
January. So no.
Still, long time, really long
It's
time.
crazy to think about. It has been a long, long time. So the interesting thing about Luukkonen, he is arbitration eligible. Now, if this season, let's say it ended today, or at least the season finishes the way it's projected to, with him as your starter, the team's around 80 points. He's probably the best story about the team. That's going to be an interesting case.
You think he thinks he's worth more than the Sabres would offer him?
I I think I think he would, right? And I feel like Kevin Adams likes to avoid arbitration, and I just feel I feel like he's too nice. Those
You
those
can't be a
meetings
pushover.
those
You can't be
meetings.
a
Oh, I
pushover.
know, but those meetings get ugly, and he just
Yeah,
Adams is always about doing right by the player. And has he done an arbitration case since he got here? I don't think he has. And if he did, it probably was like his first season.
mm-mm.
He
I
didn't
don't
go
think
there with
so.
they didn't go there with Tyson Jost. They
No.
elected to just drop him to free agency and then sign him. So you have to wonder how that would look because look, this is an organization that has never given him the sign of approval. Like Kevin Adams has chosen to, I guess, stick by him and keep him on the team these past few years, but they've never really given him the, I guess, passed him the torch of the starting goaltender job. I mean, remember the end of last season, how it was so weird. He was barely getting any starts once Levi got here. And I'll never forget that game in Columbus, the last game of the season. They're out of the race. They gave that start to Levi, and they didn't even dress Luukkonen.
Yeah.
And I
Oh, I
I think
remember that.
did they dress Craig Anderson for that? I know he was there. I don't know if they dressed him or not, but I don't think Luukkonen dressed for that game.
Would they have had four goalies
He had four
at that
goalies on the
point?
roster at that time.
That's insane. I can't
So
even believe that.
even if Luukkonen did dress for that game, let's say, it's still weird that they started Levi. It's really weird.
Hmm.
This is a relationship that has never been perfect. It's
No.
probably going great now. I'm sure Adams has begun to think about an extension. It's just it would be really interesting if that got to an arbitration case.
I don't know, man. I could see it. I could easily see it. And maybe he's got a chip on his shoulder. Maybe he thinks he's earned more than the organization thinks he's worth. So, I mean, if he does go to arbitration, how much do you think they'll give him? I'm thinking like four, three.
I feel like his ask. It's so weird because you never know what like a goalie's thinking. I feel like what did Samsonov ask for last year? Wasn't it around? Did he ask for 4 million? I feel like that would be like a very similar case. I feel like Ilya Samsonov's case with the Maple Leafs, that would be really similar.
Let's hope he doesn't follow that path because if he
Well,
follows that path,
obviously, yeah.
then I will be doing victory laps. And I'm not praying on his
Victory lap.
downfall
Oh
either.
my, I don't know. That
Not
sounded.
praying on his downfall.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't go down that road. That'd be pretty ugly.
Yeah.
Although I think they're talking about he might starting for them again, like legitimately starting.
The Maple Leafs in a playoff spot right now?
They had it feels like a week ago they had that like they were talking about Keefe getting fired again, and then I think they rattled off three in a row.
Okay.
So they might be in a playoff spot as of this moment. But back to Luukkonen to kind of, I guess, maybe close it a bit here. It would be interesting to see what his ask would be. I feel like I guess I'm just throwing a contract out here of what I would like to see. Like maybe like a 2 by 3.5. Like I'd feel pretty decent about that.
It
But I feel
seems
like but I feel like if that sounds fair, then Luukkinen's ask is gonna be like it's gotta be in the fours maybe.
it
Because
seems
he's gonna be thinking to himself, okay, I'm the starting goalie. I should get paid like one.
yeah. The contract seems short enough to be a safe play, but it also feels long enough to be annoying if he does fall off. Because I feel like we have this issue with players every single year. We're like, great, this guy's around for 2 more years after this. What are we gonna do? We already sent what, three NHL guys through waivers? Like,
3 through it, and you basically got 4 down there if you include Stillman.
mm,
So
the Amerks are a wagon. They
yeah,
got all that NHL talent.
they're playing some good hockey right now. Real good hockey. If only they well, maybe we'll talk about them a bit later. In any case, Luke in it, that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow. If he continues this play, I mean, we are what 45, 46 games into the season, and he has been legitimately good. But it was around this point last year when he did start to crater. You can attribute that to the 3-man rotation, and I think that's valid. I think that played definitely a little bit into it when that began, but his hot start very much cooled off last season. So hopefully he keeps going through. As I said, he's probably like the one really good story the team has going for them right now.
Yeah. I mean, who else do we have to talk about in a positive way?
Oof, positive way.
Levi's been okay. He hasn't been terrible.
Yeah, I mean, me and JP, we spent a lot of time talking about him last episode because he was coming off that Kraken start.
Hmm.
If we want to jump to Levi, he's only played 4 games this month. It's January 22nd. Like 4 games, including his start in the AHL. No, let me correct myself. I thought it was 3 NHL games and an AHL game. He's only played 2 NHL games this month and that one AHL start.
Hmm.
I
Seems
don't.
like limited reps, right?
I do not like that.
No, me neither.
Um. Yeah, I mean, 2 starts. I mean, he didn't. He played. When did he start for the Amherst? Probably like was it Friday night? So 4 days ago. So he played one game from January 10th to what's today is the 22nd. So he's played one game in 12 days.
Yeah.
That is an irregular development path, and like I said, I don't want to retread too much because we did spend a bulk of it talking about him last time, but this is such a weird development path. This is not how they planned for it to go. I mean,
Do you think
I guess I should state before we continue on with this. Devin Levi was sent down, played a game for the Amerks, and now as the Sabres are about to head to California, he's called back up and joining the team.
do you think this has anything to do with the people in Levi's camp? Because I know that you know, they wanted him to be in the NHL and they wanted him to have a shot at the starting job. And I think rightfully he's played to played well enough to a certain extent to make a case for it. But I think being in the AHL would be a lot more beneficial for him. But I don't know if it's like you could have a rift in some sort of relationship, or maybe I'm digging too deep on this. I don't
I
know.
don't know. It's like as a whole, Levi has been fine, but he's overmatched on a
Yeah.
lot of nights. The AHL is where he should be. It's where he should have been from the start. And at this point, I don't know how Levi's camp could really be arguing that he should be in the NHL. He's not even outperforming Comrie at the AHL level whenever he's down there. Comrie has
And
a 950 save percentage through his three or four starts with the Amerks.
and that doesn't make me nervous or anything.
No, no, no.
He's still extremely young. So it's like Yeah, this looks like it might take longer than we may have expected with our high expectations, but I mean, this is nothing new. This is what every goalie goes through.
I mean, I remember tweeting out after the Boston game when he first got called back up and he played phenomenal in Boston. And I remember saying, this is great. This could be a huge boost, but we can't get too hooked onto this and think that suddenly he woke up this season, because in a few weeks you could be right back to square one where you don't know what to do with him. And here we are. We're right back to square one. And this doesn't feel like a plan. Or it feels like what they probably had a plan, probably expected him to do better than he's doing, and to at least for him to say he's an NHL goaltender. And I guess you could argue who he is. Like, he's not been terrible. He's been average to close to below average. And you know the trajectory of his starts are, it's like good start, bad start, bad start, bad start, good start, iffy start, bad start. Like, it's just up and down, and that's really his season, up and down, up and down. Whether that's performances or up and down with the NHL and the AHL. It's
Seems
really
like
just
a
this.
seems like a UPL type of season, you know?
Yeah, really. How's
At
that feel?
least, going back a little while. Well, all goalies go through it. Hopefully he prevails out of it, but I think he should be getting more starts down there.
I would agree. We'll see. We'll see what happens on this California trip. I think, to at least try to understand what they're thinking, they play the Anaheim Ducks and they play the San Jose Sharks on this trip, and even the LA Kings, who have not been good since the new year. Mm, they're probably trying to see if he still has the juice. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 2 out of 3 starts here. And if he doesn't perform too well in those games, then maybe we finally see him sent down for at least the remainder of the season. I
Yeah,
just
maybe
don't.
Comrie can get a few starts up in the NHL again.
Hopefully, rooting for that guy. He's been
Yeah, me too.
been through a lot. Been through a lot. All right, I say enough of the goalies. Enough goalie talk for one episode. I think you've made your case on UPL clear. Let's touch on the Tampa Bay game. Kids Day. Those always go so well with the Sabres. They love
Such a
playing for the
bad
kids.
omen. Such a bad omen.
I think they have one win on Kids Day the last 2 seasons. There's been a lot
That's
of them. They find a way to sneak those into the schedule.
anytime I see it's a kid's day, I'm just like, that's probably a loss. They just looked outmatched the whole game. The entire game, they were just like, they were messy in their own zone. Tampa Bay was just, being Tampa Bay, like how they've been the last half decade. Just, fluid with their passing. It's just so quick, so efficient. Sabres, they just looked outmatched, like completely outmatched and outgunned. There's no regroup. There's there's no there's no formula to any of this. Like, what are we doing? Are we playing pickup hockey? Is this beer league where we just, run around and chip pucks and, have one guy take it, or have that one video I saw? Who was it? Darlene? He just stood in the defensive zone and held onto the puck for like God knows how long, passed it over to Samuelson, who had a guy on him, and he turned into the corner. It was Kucherov. Turned into the corner, lost a puck battle. He just like you had room to take it out of the zone and they brought it back and lost it. It's a head scratching sometimes.
Yeah, they turned it on a bit in the third period, but you run into a goalie as good as Andrei Vasilevsky, you're leaving it up to chance at that point. Obviously, Cousins.
Vasilevsky didn't even play. It was Jonas
Oh my
Johansson in
god!
net
Oh my god! I thought it was Vasilevsky. Why did I think? I knew it was Jonas Johansson. Why did I think that?
because they're
Okay,
basically
never
the
mind.
same player.
Scratch what I said. Scratch all that.
When you run into a goalie as hot as Jonas Johansson, you know you're in for a bad
Oh my
time.
god. Yeah, that does make it a bit worse. Just a bit worse.
A bit, a lot worse. A Buffalo reporter said, watching him in practice when he was with the team, that this guy is, I'm paraphrasing, this guy is the worst goalie I've ever seen play at the NHL level. He can't stop a puck in practice and he can't stop a puck in games. And we lost to this guy.
I think John Vogel knew he was going to take his promotion in the next couple of months, and he knew his time with as a Sabres beat reporter was coming to an end. So he just went out with a bang.
Good.
Called it how he saw it.
And we couldn't put more than one in the net against him. The bad
Yeah,
start killed us. It did.
it's
Again,
you
first
know,
period down
yep.
2-0.
Power play hurts him again. Alex Tuck
Shorthanded
turns it
goal.
over, shorthanded goal. You know,
Oh,
that's
my
how
God.
it's the story of the season right there. You know, it's a big divisional game. A lot of, I mean, the kids being Kids Day meant there are more people in the seats, more people there at the game. People knew the stakes somewhat. It was a divisional matchup. If you want to get back into the race, that's who you got to beat. And it was just a loss. You know, it was one of those games I wasn't mad at. Their effort wasn't horrible, but you've lost all goodwill this season to earn that benefit of the doubt.
And
Like
it's just, it's the same thing that kills you every time. And I just don't I know I want to give this organization the benefit of the doubt that they're addressing the issues with just the power play, like just the main things, like, special teams and just your style of play and the way you break the puck out. I want to say that they're on all this stuff, but it just, from October to now, it just doesn't seem like it's changed. Like, what could they possibly be doing in practice? Are they just running the same thing, or are they just saying, well, we're just going to try everything and everything isn't working? There's either no structure or there's too much structure. They're either being pressured too much by the coaching staff or there's not enough pressure. I don't know which way it's going. All I know is that that something needs to change. And we've said this so many times. Something has to switch because it's not working. And I know that Adams has goodwill with the coaching staff. You gotta start holding people accountable here. If heads have to roll, it's time. It's go time. It's now. It's not at the end of the season. It's now.
we talked about it a bit last night after the Bills season wrapped up. Now that that's all finished, you're the only Buffalo sports. You're the only sports team going right now. I don't mean that to be a shot at the Bandits, but now that the Bills season is over, the last major sport still standing is the Sabres, and it's going to be that way for the next 4 months. And you are in the midst. Goes without saying, you're in the midst of a long ass playoff drought, and people are fed up and or tuning out, and you're going to be watched very closely to see how you respond to how this team is playing. Are you just going to let this season play out? Are you just going to keep hoping it changes, or not even hoping it changes, just letting it happen the way it is? You can't. I can't sign up for another 3 months of that. I can't. I
You've done it
cannot.
too many times.
I cannot sign up for an 80-point finish. That is so bad for this team and for this core. If they sit pat and watch that happen, this is worse than any of the Eichel seasons in terms of letting the loser culture creep in. It's worse. 15-16, good overall season. 16-17, they were still in, they were a point out of the playoff spot in February, and then they quickly fell out. Like, you're not gonna hire a new coach with a month left in the season. 17-18, last place finish, but that was an awful roster. You can't blame just Phil Housley for that one. 18-19, maybe you should have done a coaching change there, but you had a 10-game win streak. So how many coaches have a 10-game win streak one season and then get fired in the same season? Probably never. And Kruger's first season wasn't awful. They were
No.
around 500. They were still somewhat within the race. You know, they had the trade deadline, and then they lost. They went on a West Coast swing, and that's kind of where their season ended. And then the next season, they fired him. And then from there, Don Granado, it was a development season. Last season, it was a just figure stuff out season. And then with their finish they had, it set expectations for this year. It goes without saying that, look, the GM was talking about playoffs from the start of the season. He said their window opened. This was a playoffs or bust type season. And it doesn't mean it was the end of the world if they missed. I don't think it's the end of the world if they missed, but it couldn't go like this. It can't. All of your important players are disappointing. And I don't, other than maybe Jeff Skinner, you cannot, I don't know if you can just say it's a down year for everybody. I mean, everybody's having a down year, every single person. I don't think Tage has been bad. I actually think he's been playing some underrated two-way hockey, but everybody's taken a step back. And given that the team has also collectively taken a step back in the standings by a considerable margin, how long are you going to hang on to this? How long are you going to hang on to mediocrity? Are you not going to change anything? If
Yeah,
you are, that's a losing culture.
yeah,
That is a
exactly.
losing culture. That is how you instill it in these players. That it's okay to lose. It's okay. We'll regroup next year and we'll give it another shot. You're basically you're you're putting these players on you're putting this team on an island, making it seem like it's them or nothing. I'm not going to do anything to help you. Maybe I'll bring in a fourth line player to help you out that will scratch half the time. But nothing's going to change. I'm just going to let the coaching staff ride it out, no pressure. See what you guys got.
Yeah, it's head scratching. It really is. I don't know. I don't know if Kevin Adams is just too soft of a GM or um obviously right now I am in favor of firing the coaching staff. The only problem is it's like when you fire mid-season, I know it could be a lot to, bring in a whole new staff just to go with the team. But you know what? I think it could be the jolt that they need. It'll at least on a mental level it'll show them that hey, you guys, we're paying you. We brought you in. You had expectations this year. This is what happens. This is what happens when you don't win games. You need to do something. Something needs to happen. And as each day goes by, I get less and less confident anything's going to happen. And honestly, I've curbed my expectations for the off season. I really feel like this might just be another year where they're just like, well, we gave it our best shot, but maybe we just, down a year, just run it back again without, maybe you get rid of a couple of guys. But it's unbelievably discouraging and it's really sad at this point. It really is. I don't have many other words to describe like what I've been seeing, but disappointing and discouraged would be at the top of that list.
I'm fairly certain that given that they have a 5-3 record, they have a positive record since the new year. And I would not be surprised if that is saving Don Granado's job right now.
Yeah, if they lay an egg, Sabres after dark, the next few games, I mean, come on, like what else, Kevin? What else is there here? You're playing bottom of the barrel teams. You never know. This could be one of those. You remember how we make jokes about how the Sabres get head coaches fired because,
They're
they
awful.
suck, they're awful, and they win a game against a team that's been
it
struggling,
makes an
and that's the nail in the
organization
coffin.
it makes an organization rethink their entire payroll.
San Jose could do that to us
Anaheim, step right up.
or Anaheim. Yeah, another bottom of the barrel team. It could happen. It could easily happen. And I'm not saying I'm rooting for it. I'm hoping Don Granado could figure it out somehow. I'm hoping that this team still has time to turn it around so we can get some meaningful hockey games in March. Sabres jerseys and gym shorts goes really well in the month of May. Haven't had it in a long time. Like, come on.
You know what? I'm past the point where I'm expecting playoffs. It's probably, I mean, the chances are probably what, nine or not nine.
Like
Chances are
5%.
probably 5%, probably even lower.
hmm
Okay, it's not going to happen.
Last time I checked, Money Puck had him at like 4.5.
But can it be a fun finish at least? A fun-ish finish. I
That's
know
the best.
I've previously said I don't want a new coach to come in when the pressure's gone, and I still kind of believe that. But now I'm of the thinking like this team can't keep losing. They can't. This is the core. Okay, nobody's hurt. Okay, they're dealing with some injuries, but for the most part, nobody's hurt. This is the core. This is the team that you want to win with. If this roster has an 80-point finish, that's concerning. That's very concerning. You're going to go into the offseason with so many questions. If the season ended today, you're thinking to yourself, is Tage Thompson a flash in the pan? Is Dylan Cousins a flash in the pan? Was Rasmus Dahlin a 1 year thing? Was Owen Power's rookie season the height of his play? Is Casey Middlestat, is this going to be the way he plays from now on, or is this peak Casey Middlestat? Is Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen a starting goalie, or are we going to be signing ourselves to a contract that is going to bite us in the ass? What's Devin Levi?
Albatross.
What should we do with the goaltending? Should we leave Levi in the AHL this year, or do we try him in the NHL again? Like, there's so many questions if this season ends like this. And
I
I
know.
don't think you can afford to have that happen. I really
No,
don't think so.
no, because a a season like this could breed, overcorrection in some way. Um, and overcorrect, as we know in the past that we've seen this organization do time and time again, overcorrection is a bad thing sometimes. Or it could lead to, like you said, there's just questions about players. Like, why do you think they never signed Sam Reinhart's on a 60 goal pace this year? They never signed him to a long-term deal. That's just bad asset management. And not only that, it was just organizationally and from the coaching staff, they didn't play him right. So we've seen this before. All these questions, they go away. All of them go away with winning. You win, nobody's going to ask you questions. You continue to lose this way, the questions are just going to amount more and more. And those questions could lead to overcorrection. Some of it, good correction. Some of it, obviously, you're never going to go 100%. You're never going to bat 1,000.
I mean,
You're going to make some bad decisions again.
if this season ended today, I'd probably be willing to bet money they make an expensive free agency signing
Yeah, something stupid.
and make a big trade. Like that can end well. It can end well, but there's also a good chance it might not. And
There's a really good chance it might not.
that was supposed to be the benefit of in-house building, that stupid additions from the outside really wouldn't be needed. But if this season ends this way, it's going to be hard to justify not going out and getting someone. It's almost, you almost have to justify, or you almost have to prove that you're going to have a big off season. Those are the scariest ones.
Yeah,
The GM feels like he has to prove something, prove that he's trying.
breeds overcorrection. Or just, bad you make a decision, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And you know what? There's just a bad string of luck around here with free agency. It just usually never goes well. If I'm one to bet, I think that a big splash free agent signing in the offseason is probably more of a chance it'll hurt the team than benefit the team. I mean, people around here wanted Timo Meyer. Look at what he's doing right now in New Jersey. Not well. And he signed what, 7 years for 8.5 million or something?
I think they went the full 8 with him.
Or even worse. I mean, he's been below average,
Yeah,
but
I think maybe he's been hurt a bit, but that then Lindy Ruff is his head coach. He's no stranger to messing with high high talent goal scorers.
could I ask you a question? If New Jersey continues to go on this little bit of a, stretch of bad games and they decide to make a head coaching change, and the Sabres just, at some point decided to make a coaching change at the same time, would you be, it would probably happen in the off season if anything, but would you be opposed to bringing Lindy Ruff in as your head coach?
I was thinking about this when I saw a lot of Devils fans advocating for his firing. And I was thinking because retreads never go well, usually.
Usually no.
Like
Ted
usually
Nolan.
not. I mean that was okay. Well, that was set up. Like there's no scenario where that ends well.
They brought him back in the organization after all that went down. Bad taste after the first go
do
round. And they brought him in. They're like, Tank Commander Ted Nolan.
do you
Good
think
luck.
do you think they told him what their what their plan was? Like when they had the coaches interview, he probably had this whole plan that they were going to be this competitive team, and Tim Murray and Terry Pagula are probably looking at each other like, yeah,
It's gonna be great, Ted.
it's gonna go great, yeah, yeah, we're gonna help you out big time.
That poor guy.
Oh man,
He definitely hates this organization.
yeah. But I was thinking because retreads usually do not go well, but I feel like this is a different conversation, maybe. I don't know because I feel like retreads. It feels like they usually come around when a team is in their contention window or trying to contend, and they bring in some old magic to, I don't know, try and bring them back. I don't know. I was just thinking maybe it's different with Lindy in that situation because this is a team that hasn't taken a step yet.
Hmm.
So it's almost like, and Lindy's coming off of a team that just took the same step.
Exactly.
I don't know. I would do it. I would do it
So would I.
because
So would I.
even if he's another stepping stone coach, even if it comes to the time where they got to fire him to attempt to win the cup, Jesus, can we just get a playoff team? Is that too much to ask for?
To be, yeah, top 16 in the league.
If Lindy Ruff gets you to frustrating first and second round losses, fine. I want to have those conversations instead.
Me
The
too.
same stuff with the Bills. Like I would rather have these heartbreaking losses that frustrate you and make you depressed than do this over and over again, where it's disappointing season after disappointing season. Because
Playoff losses or not, I'm always grateful.
yeah, Lindy Ruff, like he's done. First of all, I really don't understand why they would want to fire him. I really don't. And this is coming from a Sabres fan perspective because one of the big things over there, obviously Timo Meyer isn't performing well, but he is not seemingly the biggest fan of Alexander Holtz, who was a recent high draft. I think he went the same draft as Jack Quinn, who's kind of like that same pure goal scoring type. And it's funny, I'm kind of seeing the same stuff that you saw when he was here. You know, him messing with Tom Zvanek or Maxim Afinogenov. So it's funny seeing that. Like they haven't been exposed to that. And like they still have a good record. Jack Hughes has been out. Nico Heischer's missed some time this season, and their goaltending has been awful. They're 5 games over 500.
Vitek Vanacek has been terrible.
Schmidt, anybody. I mean, they're
Schmidt, yeah.
you name any goalie on the market, they're interested in them because it's that bad.
It's kind of interesting to just, look at everyone else struggle in the net. And for once, we're kind of like, I think we're good right now. Like, there's a little question with the development path of Levi, but you know what? I think we're okay. I think the ship is, it's buoyant right now. We're not going down. The rest of the team is already at the bottom of the ocean, but um
I mean,
But
looking at evolving hockey right now, Devils are top 10 in expected goal share. Like this is not like the team is still they're
mhm.
playing good. They're playing good. I
And
would
your
not fire him.
generational talent is out.
Yeah, Hughes is still out. So it's unfair.
It is.
I don't know. But I would do it because I think he would be Lindy would at least be able to take this team to the next step. I mean, if he can't, then Jesus, who can?
Just honestly, just throw anyone behind the bench at that point. I'd be down to throw like a giraffe behind the bench. Just see what it could do. Maybe it'll eat popcorn out of someone's bucket in the first row, but it's something. So it's a living thing just chilling there. Maybe they don't need a coach. Maybe they just need a giraffe.
I want to ask you one more thing. What did you think about the whole Owen Power thing? Not standing in front of the empty net.
What do I think about it?
What do you think about it?
I think the people that are saying that, oh, why don't you try and step in front of it and block the shot, buddy? First of all, the camera angle we saw, we don't know how far off to the side that puck was shot from. Second of all, like, are you joking with that kind of excuse? Are you just trying to grasp at straws here? Out of all the Owen Power hate I've seen on Twitter, some of it being somewhat justified, and that's considering that he's young and he's still like a raw prospect. Like I could have that conversation. But if you want to just start saying that he should have stepped in front of a shot on an empty net after the team had given the puck away, not even him give the puck away.
that
The team gave the puck to the Tampa Bay Lightning and they fired into the empty net. If you're going to blame him for that, you're an idiot. Stay off of Twitter.
honest to God, that might be like the perfect that's like a direct parallel to Tyler Bass almost. Like could he have gone in front of it? I guess. Like
Yeah,
he could have done that, but like we took so many steps to get to that point and people are just singling him out. Like
yeah,
to me it was such a funny like it was the last thing I was thinking about watching the end of that
complete
game.
last thing.
It was the
Complete
last
last
thing.
thing. The f-
And they're singling him out. Like, that is such a perfect encapsulation of how he gets so much
way too much
hate.
hate.
So much.
Unbelievable. Like, man, like
I'm not even saying
you talk about people with too much time on their hands, man.
I,
Really? You're gonna make that argument that he should have stepped in front of a puck that was probably traveling 90 some miles. Who knows if he could have even reacted quick enough? I sure couldn't have told you if he could or not. Maybe he could have. The camera angle we saw was terrible. So even just seeing that camera angle and making the assumption that he should have stepped in front of it, you don't even know if he could have gotten to it. So you're an idiot right off the gate. Step one. And then step two is everything else you're saying. Just unbelievable with some people, man.
well said. Well said. I'm of the same stance. I think like it's a ridiculous thing to complain about in
No,
my mind.
yeah, and you made actually a really good comparison. It's just like the Tyler Bass thing. It's like you had chances all game. You were peppering a goalie that one of your beat reporters decided to drag through the mud justifiably because he sucked, and you couldn't put two past him. And it's going to come down to Owen Power didn't step in front of the empty net shot, and that's what cost his team the win. Like God, like some people should just stay off of Twitter, myself included sometimes.
All right, let's jump into some quick little fun stuff with the Sabres. Well, fun depending on how you see it. So I'll start with Eric Johnson. Michael Russo of The Athletic did a column on the Minnesota Wild. Now that Jared Spurgeon, their captain, is out for the season, obviously a huge blow to that team that's struggling to get into the playoff race. That leaves a big gaping hole on their right side. In the article, kind of detailing some trade options, Eric Johnson was brought up as one of the potential names that they could go after. Now, it wasn't they're interested in him. It's not that he's drawing interest. It's just an idea that he threw around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's interesting a little bit because I, I do wonder what they do with him. Like they brought him in to be kind of this huge voice to the locker room. He kind of has been tricked Darlene into buying a sauna for his house. But I do wonder like when it gets to decision time at the deadline if they do end up moving him because I do feel like I mean he's a big right-handed defenseman with Stanley Cup experience.
Hmm.
That's gonna draw interest, 100%. At least one
Yeah.
team's gonna poke around,
Yeah.
and he was getting other offers in the offseason.
Does the Minnesota Wild really need to be getting older though right now? The team is basically a corpse at this point. What do they
How,
got? Kirill
how,
and that's it?
how old is Spurgeon? I think
He's
he's in
got
his
to be
30s.
30.
I think he's in his 30s. Jared Spurgeon is 34, so
Yeah,
wow,
well into his
that is
30s.
older than I thought he was, to be honest.
Yeah,
He's the same age as Eric Johnson, right? Is Eric Johnson 35
I
or
think he's
34?
36.
35. He's still 35.
Oh, okay.
So
35. Well,
only a year between those two.
yeah, but I mean, obviously, if someone's poking around, you want to take Eric Johnson off our hands, go for it, man. We have seven defensemen that are rotating basically right now. Take them. And like, obviously, it'll suck because I know how this goes. You trade them. Yay, we got six defensemen now. Injury, injury, injury. Great. Jacob Bryson, Riley Stillman, and Kale Clay come on down. Um, but yeah, I mean, right now, sure, take them. I mean, I like the voice in the locker room, but we've stated before that time for that is over. The voices in your locker room now are the guys you're holding accountable to put the puck in the net. They're your 11.5 million, 11 or 11 and a half for Darlene. What was it, 11?
It's 11,
11
I
mil?
think, right on the dot, right?
11, yeah, $11 million defenseman and your 6 foot 10, 7 foot 8 giraffe you have on the ice in Tage Thompson. Those are your voices in the and Alex Tuck and those boys. Those are your voices in the locker room now. The time for support pieces for you know locker room culture, that's over. We're done
Yeah,
with that.
you can't continue to do this.
Mm-mm,
I think
no more.
if you want to take the next step, it's time for your core to do it themselves. Like,
Exactly.
essentially the training wheels have to come off. Darlene
Yeah.
has Darlene is gonna be your captain. He's got to be the locker room leader. Thompson is probably going to be an assistant captain. And what they gave an A to Alex Tuck recently with Gergenson's being out. Though that's
And yeah,
probably going to be your leadership core. So
those are your boys. Yeah.
those three have to be the guys. And I'll throw Dylan Cousins into that because he's making the fifth highest amount of money on the team, and he's been seen as a leader since the moment he got here.
Yeah. And
So
he's shown in the past that like he sticks up for his teammates and he could be a leader too. So these are the guys that are going to be the voices. You don't need
no more safety nets.
no more not they're not even a safety net. It's just like you don't need this. I guess no, yeah, it is a safety net. You don't need this anymore.
Hmm.
It's just
And I have
yeah.
no I have no problem with like the idea of Eric Johnson.
Yeah,
But for me, it went from a guy with Stanley Cup experience to, oh, this guy is one of the main voices of the room
right.
because since day one, he's been preaching defense, 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 and now the team is preaching defense, defense, defense.
Yeah.
So it's not just another piece with experience coming in; it's a guy who they see as a major voice of the room. But we'll see how that continues as we approach the deadline. On to the other one, Casey Middlestat. So Kevin Weeks on it was one of ESPN's weekly show. I don't think it was The Point, but it was something else. He was on there, and they were doing their weekly kind of recap of trade targets. And for the first time, Casey Middlestat's name was brought up as a potential options for teams to buy. Now, Kevin Weeks didn't list any official teams, anybody who was specifically interested, but Casey is obviously an RFA, and given his versatility, his age, and what he can do for a playoff team in need of either a center or a winger, yeah, it's going to draw some interest. I'm sure Kevin Adams has received some phone calls, and obviously us Sabres fans should take anything Kevin Weeks says with a little bit of a grain of salt, given some fake rumors that have appeared in the past. But it wouldn't be surprising if this is a conversation that we continue to have. More specifically, because before we started recording, Lance Lysowski put out a column earlier today where he talked to Middlestat, and Middlestat brought this up that he was, and I quote, it was actually kind of weird. I was just sitting at home watching NHL Network, and all of a sudden, my name is getting thrown around. So that was surprising to me, to be honest with you. It's obviously something I've never experienced before. So it's
Right.
it's it's something that he's seen, and as he would go on to say, and I quote, there has not really been any communication between Adams and Middlestat's camp about an extension, which is really
Yeah.
weird. Which is
Yeah, that is
really weird.
weird.
That's unlike Kevin Adams, when he has the intention of re-signing someone. So that's very interesting to me.
And you want to talk about, we talked about UPL as a, you know, a positive storyline of this season. Casey Middlestat's been your best player.
Hmm.
Like maybe Jeff Skinner you can make a case for,
So
but
it's
Casey Middlestat has just been he's been unbelievable this season. And
so
he also said,
it's almost even weirder because of
yeah,
that. Like
and he
he's been your best player. You would almost think like it would be a moth to a flame that the GM would talk about a contract extension, and there haven't been any talks.
you think he's thinking like there's too many cooks in the kitchen right now, that he's
Well,
got to get some
I
like
mean,
big
he's
name guy in
I
here.
mean, with how the team's performing, he's forced to think about these things. Really.
But I honestly think parting with your best player of the season is just it's inevitably going to make this team worse. But I will say, kind of a side tangent, real quick. All I want to say is like your top line has been set. You got your kid line, and you got Middlestat in there with Greenway and them. I'm thinking like Middlestat, I really think should be a part of that core. And after that, everyone else should be expendable.
So
Like
I would
even Jordan Greenway.
I'm
Like if you
I'm
could package him in a trade too, go for it.
I'm glad that you're kind of bringing this up because I think we might have a decent back and forth here. So I put out a tweet on the account. It was my point of view. I don't speak for all of us. That I was of the opinion. I think Casey Middlestat should be traded. Not for any
Hmm.
fault of his own, but I think it's something that the team needs to do. And I outlined four reasons. Okay, reason number one, this is I would be willing to bet this is going to be his best season as a Sabre. He's
Could be, yeah.
getting a good chunk of top line minutes, and he's scoring at just an unreal clip. And it's a testament to him. His finishing has been awesome. I just don't know if that amount of offensive play driving can be repeated in the following years. Reason number two, he's their best trade asset. Who else you reasonably going to trade on on the roster?
True, yeah. I mean, you got
Probably,
Krebs, Greenway, maybe.
yes, but Casey Middlestat has the most value out of those guys,
Yeah, yeah.
especially given he can play wing or he can play center, and he's still
Mm-hmm.
young.
Mm-hmm.
And reason number three, depending on what that contract would look like, it's gonna be expensive. Okay, you're probably talking over 6 million. You're talking about a guy that is on pace for 60 even strength points and around 70 on the season overall. That's going to be expensive. And if you take that gamble and he regresses to, a 45, 50 point player, that's a good player. That amount of cash that you gave him might come back to bite you, especially because the Darlene and the power contracts kick in next season. And for me, reason number four, if he trades Middlestat, Kevin Adams is telling the team no more messing around. Okay? He's been here since 2017. All the guys love him. He predates this entire core aside from no, I mean, Darlene, Thompson, Middlestat all came up at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So of the young core, he was here first. If you trade him, it's a stamp of you're telling the rest of the roster we are trying to win and only win. So
Yeah.
those were my reasons. And obviously, you just voiced that you think they should keep him. I kind of want to get a back and forth going here. So where do you stand on it? After
Well,
I
first,
guess I reread these reasons.
well, let me preface by saying you got absolutely cooked in the QRTs after you posted that. People were not happy with your side of the argument. And let me tell you, I agree with some of the things you say. I just see, I mean, if I'm looking at Casey Middlestat, I do see him as part of this core. I mean, it's kind of like a UPL thing. It's like, he's been here so long. Um, you've put all this time into him and he's ready to go. And he's shown that he's just been like he's the best puck handler on this team. He wins puck battles better than anyone else on this team. And that's something that could really come to be important to this team. But I also see your argument and like this probably could be his best year. We don't know. Trade while his value is high. And this team does need some sort of spark. So I agree with you on that end too. I'm just saying this could probably go either way, but I mean, there's benefits to keeping him and there's also benefits to trading him. And those two options also come with cons as you're losing something on both ends. But I don't know. I didn't hate your tweet the other day. I thought you made good points and I agreed with pretty much all of them. But if you already have some of these guys locked up, it's like you got to make an even bigger trade if you want to move out a guy like, God forbid, Dylan Cousins or um I was gonna say maybe you part with one of Paterka or Quinn, but it's like you don't want to do that either. It's like something has to change. There's going to be a decision that needs to be made in this organization that there's going to be uproar in the fan base. There's going to be a good portion of fans that think it's the stupidest decision.
It almost kind of has to be.
It has to be. It's
You
got to
have
be
you
dumb.
have you have to you have to change something.
Right.
And other than, I mean, would there be a universally liked trade on this roster right now for like a big piece?
Uh,
Probably not. You could
no.
trade any. I think maybe other. I don't think many people would lose sleep over Isaac Roseanne, maybe. But you trade Kulik, Savoy, even now Ausland after the World Juniors. People would be upset about that. And
I
I think,
wouldn't anymore. At
well,
this point, no.
I know you wouldn't. But with Middlestat, let me try to frame it this way. What's more important, your third center or a top four defenseman?
Top four defenseman.
So if Casey Middlestat were to be used in a trade and he was the only player taken off the roster, and you got, let's just say, let's throw out the dream scenario. Let's throw out like Erasmus Anderson. I would see that. I would see it as an upgrade. I do think he's a better player, but you're also filling out, I think, a more important need of your team. And if that's what you can get in a Casey Middlestat trade, then it's absolutely worth it in my mind.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not. I don't want to pawn him off for picks. I mean, maybe if somebody throws a first round pick your way and a roster player, I think you think about it, and then, you know, if it's something like the Kevin Fiala trade, Kevin Fiala sent to L.A. and Minnesota got back a first round pick and Brock Faber. Like that's a good deal for Minnesota. Faber has been awesome for them, a top four defenseman. Like if you can kind of do that, okay, I'll listen to that. You can use the first round pick as more ammo. But if you're selling them off for like a second round pick and a second, a third, and maybe like a Andres Bjork level type player, like if it's like a Taylor Hall trade, no, I don't have any interest in that. But if you can make a legit upgrade to your team, I think you have to do it.
Yeah.
I love Casey. It's unfortunate this season has worked out the way it has, where you have to look at him as a piece they have to move on from potentially. All right, I think that's a good amount of Sabres talk for this week. I think we've got our fill. See how they do on this West Coast trip. Let's jump into some wider NHL stuff. So, At the top of it, for us Sabres fans, Tyler Ennis has retired from professional hockey at the age of 34 due to a neck injury.
Sad day. It was a sad day in Buffalo, man. The last piece of the last time the Sabres were in the playoffs is gone.
No, not quite. Tyler Myers is
Oh,
still
Tyler
playing.
Myers. I'm
Tyler
talking
Myers
about
and
impact player.
someone else is still playing. Who is it? It's oh, I saw the tweet after everybody was talking about it. There's one other guy from that team. I don't know who it is. He's not in the NHL anymore though. But Tyler Myers is the last one. He's the last remaining piece of a Sabres playoff roster to still be playing.
It's depressing.
Tyler
But
Ennis
for
being 34, like that just feels wrong.
yeah.
I just always picture him as like this young guy.
Well, I mean, 34 is still young, but I mean, best wishes to him. He had a bunch of injuries that kind of derailed his NHL career a bit, but he'll always be remembered in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Greatest commercial of all time.
Enzo sauce.
No, I wasn't even thinking that. I was talking about the was it Intense Milk? It was the one chocolate milk
Oh
commercial.
yeah.
That was a legendary one. They played that everywhere back in the day.
hmm
Everywhere.
The days of the tank.
But with him retired, that would mean a new Sabre would have to be born in his place. And that means that Cody Hodgson is coming back. He signs a PTO with the Milwaukee Admirals.
I never thought I'd see him come back. He was just with Marty and Duffer like couple months ago
Yeah,
on
they
the
had him in for a
Sabres.
team event, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Like an autograph signing.
Never thought I'd see him back. He had some talk about bad luck, man. Like
Yeah,
he had some rare disease.
like it's been 8 years since he's played. It's really sad.
How old is he?
He's
He's got to be.
33.
Hey,
He's got a little bit of time left.
he could be, yeah, he could be back. I thought he was way older. I thought he was in his 40s. I thought he was in his like late 20s when he played for us.
Hmm. Yeah, he just a sad story. Such a promising
hmm
player. Really looked like he was. I mean, he was great with the Canucks, and for the first 2 years, he was pretty good with the Sabres. I know he led them in points. I think after the first tank season.
Yeah.
But then the illness really got to him towards the end of that, and obviously Tim Murray would get out of that contract soon enough. But he was diagnosed with malignant hypothermia, and it wasn't even diagnosed until after his last season. So
Hypothermia? Really?
yeah, hyperthermia. So
Oh,
yeah,
hyperthermia.
yeah, hyperthermia.
So you just get way too overheated.
It's a severe reaction to certain drugs used for anesthesia. This
Hmm.
this severe reaction typically includes dangerously high body temperature, rigid muscles or spasms, a rapid heart rate, and other symptoms. So I can only imagine trying to play through that.
Oh, Jesus Christ, you'd have a heart attack.
Yeah. So hopefully everything's going well for him. I'm rooting for the guy.
I hope he gets back to the NHL.
That'd be a really cool story.
hmm Who are the Mil? That would be
Nashville.
Nashville.
That was the last team he played for.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. All right. So kind of continuing on with our previous conversation about head coaches being fired, Lane Lambert was fired by the New York Islanders.
After
And
a
that,
winning record
and you
to
would
start the season.
and you would think that would be big enough news in and of itself, but no, Lou Lamoriello hires Patrick Waugh as his replacement.
The biggest hothead coach I've ever seen. Com Man, did you see him in practice the
I
other
did.
day?
Yeah, he was
Yelling.
yelling and slamming his stick like from the get-go. I'll never
And
forget what was it? Matt Duchene. They were losing like 5-0, and Duchene scored late and did like a little celly because it was his 30th of the season. And they Waugh post game was like, what is that? I mean, what are we doing? It's his own player, and he's calling him out in the media like that.
well, that wasn't during like the crazy bad year they had, right? That was
No,
before that,
he
right?
was. I think he wasn't the coach that season. I think he was
Yeah.
fired before then.
Remember when he almost pushed a piece of plexiglass into Bruce Boudreau?
I do remember that.
Man, that
Ah,
dude is just out of his mind.
yeah, John Tortorella and Patrick Waugh in the same division. Those will be some heated bouts.
That'll be fun.
Moving on, Corey Perry has found his next home after being released by the Chicago Blackhawks. The Edmonton Oilers, who are 21-3 in their last 24 games, sign Corey Perry to a
Must be
1-year,
nice.
$775K deal.
Kenny Money does it again, folks. Uh, bank it. The Edmonton Oilers are going to lose in the Stanley Cup final this year.
He's still a good player.
Yeah,
It's
he is.
it's a
He
decent
is.
little pickup for them.
It's just my curiosity. I just really want to know what happened. I
Yeah.
just want to know the story. I don't
Mhm.
know if we'll ever know, but I want to know
Yeah, I
because
mean,
they were like, you are out of here now.
yeah.
Like, get out.
I think what the only rumor we've gotten it was something alcohol related at a team event.
Yeah,
I don't even think we've received word on what he did, like specifically.
the people have the right to know.
Yeah, real weird situation, but apparently
Hmm.
not bad enough to end his career in the NHL. So Corey Perry will be joining Connor McDavid and the Oilers.
It's funny. The Blackhawks could really be using Corey Perry right now.
Dude, I forgot to say when we were talking about that game. I went to that game with my father and I played a game with him. I said, try and name me anybody on this roster that you recognize. And I'm pretty sure the only person he recognized, it might have been Seth Jones and Nick
Hmm.
Foligno. Well, no, Nick Foligno didn't even play.
Nope. I
Yeah,
would have gotten Seth Jones and
yeah,
Lucas Reichel. That was it. I don't
yeah,
know
yeah.
anyone
It's
else.
great. Like it's a
Mrazek.
roster. It's a roster I don't even know that much. Like,
It is. It
or
is a.
either of us, diehard hockey fans. Like we can't name half of these guys. Like who's Entwistle? Who? That's a made up name.
It's an ECHL hockey team. That
Uh,
organization gets what it deserves. I hope they're bad. I
yeah, they're
feel
gonna.
for
Yeah,
Connor Bedard, but I hope they're bad for the next 10 years.
yeah. They're also well. Yeah, they get what they deserve until they end up with Macklin Celebrini.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Why don't we check in on our friends in Ottawa?
This is the segment at this point. We're always checking in over there.
It's
What's
always
going on
something.
now?
You know, they've been playing some good hockey as of late. They got Shane Pinto back, signed him to a 1-year, $775K deal. So there's a rare bit of good news. They've been playing some better hockey. But about a week ago, things randomly got insane in the Senators' sphere. That's because Laleem's Martian decided to drop some bombs. So more specifically, first of all, about Eric Brandstrom, who has been a solid third pairing defenseman for them for a little bit now, but has seemingly looks like he wants to move up in the lineup, and they haven't given him that chance. And it seems like he would like a fresh start somewhere. But then the big one, per the streets, it seems like the hometown novelty has mostly worn off for Jacob Chikrin and his camp in Ottawa. Hearing his interest in being a Sen long term has diminished greatly. Very unlikely that he extends. Far more likely that he's dealt before becoming a UFA.
Is he right-handed?
He is left-handed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's like the caveat with him.
Yeah. I feel like left-handed defensemen are a dime a dozen. Jacob Chikrin, the Jacob Chikrin experiment might already be over in Ottawa. That is something I didn't expect at the beginning of the year.
It would be amazing if they swung and missed on both him and DeBrincat.
Yeah.
Like they're big swings, and you know, with the Alex DeBrincat trade, the Blackhawks took Kevin Korchinski, who looks really good,
Hmm.
and with the Senators, the Coyotes took. I think that was when they took Daniil Boot, and
Hmm.
he's looking like a monster in Russia this year. And even then, you can look at it. They could have had Zach Benson, and I'm not trying to say Benson's better than Chikrin, but I think I would take Zach Benson over a year and a half of Jacob Chikrin.
Yeah.
So if they don't
Yeah.
re-sign him and end up dealing him again, that would be a bad look, a real bad look.
It just keeps getting funnier. That's one of the I'm not again not trying to pray. No, I am trying to pray on a downfall. Never mind. It's one of the shining lights on this terrible season the Sabres are having. It's just the Senators clown show has just been hilarious to watch all year. I hope it keeps going too, because it just keeps getting funnier. And I've said it before, the NHL is a better place when the Sabres and the Senators are both really good teams.
Yeah, of
My
course.
first Sabres game I ever went to, the Sabres won 4-2 over the Ottawa Senators, and this is the late 2000s. Both of these teams were top of the league. It was incredible to watch. And I barely remember it.
All right, on to something that does become a topic somewhat regularly. Jerseys. The All-Star jerseys were released a bit over a week ago. And Christian, you and I have talked a lot about our jersey opinions over the course of the show's existence. I'm just going to toss it right off to you. What do you think about this year's edition of the NHL All-Star jerseys?
Well, let me ask you a question first. Do you think you're going to disagree with me on this?
Well, if you're setting it up like that, I'm going to say yes, because I have a feeling you have something positive to say about these jerseys.
You would be incorrect. They're terrible. It's so bad. It's the worst jersey ever. I know they're trying to go like that 90s like NHL 94 type style with the weird name bubble and the numbers and the font and everything. It's so god awful. It's terrible. You cannot convince me otherwise that those are professional jerseys. They look like roller hockey jerseys. It's terrible.
It's weird. It's like I see what they were going for. They're trying to make the NHL more like they're trying
Like
to get,
marketable.
I guess, marketable, but more like make their own kind of fashion statement. If you look at the photo shoots, it's kind of like something you'd see in, well, I mean, Jason or Justin Bieber is in a few of these photos here of showing off the jersey. So it's kind of like an actual photo shoot, trying to make it look like it's some serious style.
Hmm.
And I understand that. I don't know. It just like this the logo, like I see what they were going for, but I don't know. Even then, it looks kind of weird. And then the
It,
back of the back of the jersey is just an atrocity. Like
yeah,
what the lowercase lettering and the black like speech
I
bubble.
I thought the back of the jersey was a joke
I
the
thought it
first time
was
I
like
saw
a
it. I
mock.
thought it was, and no, I literally thought it was an actual joke when I saw it. And they're like, "No, this is what they're going with." I'm like, "You're messing with me, right? This cannot be it." And the front of the jersey, it's like you ever take like you ever copy like a grainy picture off of Google and you paste it into a Word doc and you blow it up real big? That's what that looks like.
I saw a funny tweet when it was all coming out. They said they all look like separate bags of Doritos.
They do. They do. They all look like weird Dorito bags.
I kind of, I do kind of dig the striping on the arms. I kind of dig it. That's about it. That's the only compliment I can give these things.
I'm not giving it any compliments. I don't think it's good. I mean the colors like they went safe, red, blue, green, and yellow. Not much safer you can get there. And then just I feel like I feel like they put thought into it, but they just missed. They just
Yeah.
missed.
I I will say though, I've been a huge critic of the NHL's, like all they do is go back to throwback jerseys these days.
Hmm.
And I don't like these all-star jerseys, but keep trying stuff.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
try wild stuff. I want new designs. I want new stuff. I think Adidas should, it's almost like a nice bookend. Like they had
Hmm.
all these jerseys that they created. They went back to retro designs and it was a good era. I like it. But it can't be like this forever, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if Fanatics really wants to make a good name, or at least improve their name in just the jersey market, because it's been dragged through the mud so much, rightfully so. They should just start doing off the wall stuff. If they could have good quality made material, which is what they should be emphasizing first. Good quality, what's the other word I'm looking for? Like no mistakes, no nameplate mistakes, no, like quality control, all that stuff. Make that a priority first, and then just try go nuts. Try crazy stuff. I don't care if it's bad. You got to hit on something, and it'd be cool. Like the 90s was the best jersey era in the NHL's history. If Fanatics they, they have an opportunity here to go in a direction that could take the NHL to another echelon with their jerseys.
The only other thing I'll say is it's kind of weird. I feel like the last few years the All-Star jerseys have kind of had a theme related to the city. Like
Hmm.
last year it was Miami Vice. Vegas I think had they had like black and gold kind of they kind of had like those colors for their jerseys. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. I mean, I guess what would be your theme for Toronto? I guess there really isn't one. It's just
Sadness,
Justin Bieber apparently.
Drake, snow, sadness,
Maple leaf or maple
maple.
syrup.
Yeah, nothing else. Big
Yeah.
building,
Yeah.
Lake Ontario.
Big big building. All right. Elias Pettersson, my guy, my man. Still hoping, crossing my fingers one day he will be available to acquire for the Buffalo Sabres. Here is something that will continue that hope. So after obviously a huge successful start to the Canucks season, you would think that Pettersson being an RFA would kind of start to hammer out an extension here, but that's not the case. Pettersson is holding firm that he is going to wait until the end of the season to make his decision about whether or not he wants to stay in Vancouver, which I find very interesting. And it's almost like, I mean, we make the jokes. It's not even a joke at this point. It's just the truth that their shooting percentage, their save percentage, insane. And it's almost like he's kind of expecting this season to fall short or for them to flame out early as soon as that run stops. I don't know. I'm just saying it's very weird. Pettersson, from what I've read, it seems like he's not a fan of this ownership group. I don't think he liked that they traded Horvat and that they gave the big money to JT Miller. Um, Obviously, I think winning solves all, as you say.
Hmm.
That things are fine now, but what happens when maybe the bridge collapses? I guess is all you have to wonder about.
This hey, like I I expect him to re-sign in Vancouver more than anything, but he tests free agency, man. This is the white whale here. This is the piece. This is
Man.
the one free agent you know if you overspend on, I feel like you're just not gonna care because he is
Hmm.
that good. When he's
Yeah.
healthy, he could be a top five player in the league.
Yeah. I am ready and willing to trade anything it takes to get him.
Yep,
If he doesn't want to extend long term with them and they need to trade his RFA rights to another team, totally fine. I give him the farm. If Dylan Cousins has to go in that trade,
that works.
something like that, that's fine. Like he is that he hasn't been that level. Like last year, I think he was a top 5 player in the league. This year hasn't been quite that, but obviously, he's just effortlessly amazing.
Hmm.
So that dream scenario, I'm still hanging on to it. Still hanging on.
Well, keep holding out hope.
Hmm. All right. So this last one is something that me and JP didn't really get to last time. Um, the trade that came out of absolutely nowhere in the middle of January on a random Tuesday night. The Flyers traded their second top prospect, Cutter Gauthier, to the Anaheim Ducks for Jamie Drysdale and a second round pick out of nowhere.
Yeah, completely out of nowhere. I mean, the Flyers kept it under wraps pretty good, but it just seemed like they just said he didn't want to be a Flyer, which is kind of ironic because they got a player who didn't want to be a player of a different organization. So let's see who Anaheim drafts in 25 years that doesn't want to play for them. But going back to him, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the Flyers, from what I've heard, it doesn't seem like they had any ill will towards him, and Gauthier
No,
just
it's just
didn't want to sign there.
totally like blindsided them.
Yeah, and also like that really makes me question his character as to what kind of a person he is. If he's just this hothead or this just prima donna. There were rumors that like they were gonna make him earn this one of the starting spots on the roster, which is completely fair, but he thought he was the guy. And he was just like, no, I want to play or I'm not signing. And I guess they just never reached that agreement. Again, that's all speculation, but per the streets, that's what some of the rumors have been. But yeah, it's crazy, just out of nowhere.
Yeah, Gauthier said there wasn't one specific reason that he wanted out, that it was like a culmination of things, but he wouldn't continue on past that. He wouldn't say what the reasons were. Just a really weird situation. And
Hmm.
it's a big blow to the Flyers. Like Drysdale, a lot of potential still there, and they got a second round pick. But man, things are going great for them right now. Make no mistake about it. But it was made all the better because you had both Michkov and Cutter Gauthier on the way, and still got
Now
Michkov, and
you're
that's
just
still
waiting on
fine.
Michkov. That's
But
3 years away,
but now
probably.
but now it's like, this can't miss center prospect that, I don't know, you're probably maybe hoping he's the Couturier replacement, or at least is there at least he's a top six forward of the future, and he's gone. And all you got for him was a project, I guess,
Hmm.
or just an underachieving top pick in Drysdale.
Yeah.
So just a weird situation, a weird blockbuster prospect trade. Um, crazy stuff that Danny Briere had to deal with.
Yeah. Rookie GM test testing out the waters, I guess.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I think that is basically going to do it for this one. Thank you everybody for listening and or watching.
Thank you
Looking,
a million.
thank you. Looking ahead here, as we said, the Sabres will go on a quick West Coast swing before the All-Star break. So tomorrow night we get the return of Sabres After Dark. They
Hopefully helps with the
play
Bills loss,
they play the Anaheim Ducks starting at 10 p.m. Christian, hopefully you're awake for that. And
obviously.
they and then they play Los Angeles the next night at 10:30 p.m. And then on Saturday, 4 p.m. game against San Jose. So you would hope to at least win two of those games. I
Imagine they
think
win three though.
it would be interesting. I would have to see how they win those games.
Yeah.
If it's a more Chicago and San Jose esque wins, then it's not really going to excite me. But whatever, win's a win. Like I said, I need this team to win. I
Hmm.
I do not want them to keep losing.
Yep.
So, with that, Christian, you don't have anything else to say? If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at the Sabre Report. Follow us on Instagram at the Sabre Report. Follow us on TikTok. I think we're going to start to be uploading more on that. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And if you want updates for the pod, follow us at Sabre Report Pod. Other than that, go give our friends over at the Buffalo Sports Talk podcast a listen. They had a good emergency episode after the Bills loss. Surprisingly uplifting. It gave me some weird hope for the team. Maybe
I
not
don't
all
have any
fans.
hope.
I was just about to say, maybe not all fans want to hear that type of talk. But in any case, thank you guys for listening. Take care, and we'll see you guys next time. Go Sabres.
Go Sabres.